I mean, we're fine camera.
Oh, it works. There it is. There's sound.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Nina Hentz, and I am your worship associate this morning. To those of you who are here with us in person at the Unitarian, well, I'm having trouble with this. There we go. Welcome to those of you who are here with us in person at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke, Virginia. We extend a special welcome if you are joining us for the first time. We also say welcome to those of you who are joining us on YouTube. To those on YouTube, if you have a joy or concern that you would like to share with the congregation, please put it into the chat function within the next 15 minutes. The caring committee will gather those and then share them with the congregation later. Make sure everyone's cell phone is on silent, please. Our minister is Reverend Walter LaFleur, and he is in the pulpit this morning with the focus of our morning service, In Search of Joy. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. We'll begin our service this morning by ringing the bell 7 times in honor of our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. And I'll share with you our congregational covenant. We commit to supporting each other with respect and direct communication as we work in community to explore spiritual growth and be a force for good in the world.
This morning's music is an oldie but a goodie. And if you can't see me, I'm sorry, but with the lid down, the piano buzzes for whatever reason. And we haven't figured that out yet. So it's going to be up for now. But you're welcome to join in just saying the word where at the appropriate place. And I promise you'll know where is the appropriate place. And if not, I think Jesse might be yelling where at the appropriate place. And you can join in. You don't need to yell, you can just say it. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. I got the joy, 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 joy down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart to stay. I've got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. I've got the peace that passes understanding down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart to stay. I've got the love of neighbors down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart. I've got the love of neighbors down in my heart.
Where?
Down in my heart to stay. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of neighbors in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. I've got the love of neighbors in my heart.
I'll come back here.
Our opening words this morning come from a fellow by the name of Richard Carlson. He says, to a large degree, the measure of our peace of mind is determined by how much we are able to live in the present moment, irrespective of what happened yesterday or last year, or what may or may not happen tomorrow. The present moment is where you are, always. Our words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you're filled with sadness, overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. Our chalice lighting words come from a fellow by the name of Thoreau. What lies behind us and what lies ahead of us are tiny matters compared to what lives inside of us.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jessie. I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here at UCR. And I have a book for you today, and it's one of my favorite books. I'm just going to go ahead and read it, and I'll be honest, if you're watching on YouTube, you might get a better view of the pictures because you can zoom in a little closer without your feet. So I'm going to hold it up, and if you can see the pictures, great. If you can't see them, so great. Take an adventure in your imagination, close your eyes and listen. It's called A Good Day by Kevin Hanks. It was a bad day. Little yellow bird lost his favorite tail feather.
Little white dog got her leash all tangled up in the fence. Little orange fox couldn't find his mother. And little brown squirrel dropped her nut. But then, little brown squirrel found the biggest nut ever. Little orange fox turned around, and there was his mother. Little white dog worked herself free and ran in circles through the dandelions. And little yellow bird forgot about his feather and flew higher than he ever had before. And there's more. A little girl spotted a perfect yellow feather, picked it up, stuck it behind her ear, and ran to her mother, shouting, "Mama, what a good day!" Now that day didn't start so good, did it? It was kind of a miserable day for some of them. I'd be super miserable if I lost my tail feather. But that little bird that lost his tail feather was able to fly higher than he ever had before. They kept going when things were stinky. Sometimes that's the last thing I want to do, is keep looking for something to make me happy when I'm not happy. Has anybody else ever felt that way? Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I need my friend Nina to help me do it. Sometimes I'm that little girl that finds that tail feather. And the little person that sticks it behind my ear, it keeps going. So sometimes what's not so great for us is a place where we can help other people find things that are great for them, and we all have a better day. There's lots of things right now that make our days not so good. But let's look for those little feathers and look for those times when we can fly higher than we ever did before. Thank you.
Well, this reading piggybacks on Jesse's book, so that's perfect. Some of you may have seen this before if you are on social media. It has made the rounds a few times, but I think it's nice to revisit it and listen to it. It's called Worst Day Ever. It's attributed to Shani Gorkin, who's an 11th grader in Brooklyn, New York. I'm going to read it twice, so you have to listen carefully. Today was the absolute worst day ever. And don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day, because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be obtained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure you can agree that the reality creates my attitude. It's all beyond my control. And you'll never in a million years hear me say that today was a good day. I'm going to read it one more time. Today was a good day. And you'll never in a million years hear me say that it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates my reality. I'm sure you can agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be obtained because it's all in our mind and heart. And if it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last, some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if this world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day. And don't try to convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever.
That reading is more powerful, I think, if you actually see it on a piece of paper, because it tells you, if you read from the top to the bottom, you get one storyline. And if you read the same exact words, but in reverse order, best day ever. This community of faith is of great value to very many people, both within our doors and in the larger community. The work of this church is supported by the generosity of all who join with us. An offering will now be given. The offering will be received. If you would like to give this morning and you're not actually in the room, I believe if you go to our chat box on our internet, you will find a way to be able to participate in our offering by going to bit.ly/UUCR-Vanco. For those of you who are present, we make it very easy. The baskets will come to you.
So this is the last Sunday of African American History Month, sorry. And I've been playing pieces by African American composers, piano pieces, and this one is by John Wesley Work, whom I had never heard of until a few days ago. And that was called At a Certain Church. I don't know what was going on in that church that day.
Thank you for your generosity, and more importantly, thank you for being members of this faith community, because it is with your generosity and with your love and support that we grow into our future to be more of who we already are. Thank you. Human beings cannot live without challenge. We cannot live without meaning. Everything ever achieved we owe to the inexplicable urge to reach beyond our grasp, do the impossible, know the unknown. The Upanishads would say this urge is part of our evolutionary heritage given to us for the ultimate adventure, to discover for certain who we are, what the universe is, and what is the significance of the brief drama of life and death we play out against the backdrop of eternity. An anonymous commentary on the Upanishads. Human beings cannot live without challenge, so they say, but so many of us would wish it were otherwise. We all too often equate challenge with unwanted hurdles, with problems, with difficulties, with sadness. But the sages would tell us challenges are opportunities for growth. Maybe yeah, maybe not. The second line of those words, we cannot live without meaning. Truth is, we seek to make meaning out of virtually everything. Meaning seems to be the required roadmap to our lives. How often do you hear, so what does that mean? What did she, he, or they mean by that? Oh no, that's not really what I meant at all. We've heard those words probably more times than we'd like. Whether consciously or not, we make meaning out of how a person is dressed, professional or laborer, a country bumpkin or a city slicker, right? We make meaning out of where someone lives, the kind of car they drive. We all know a sports car connotes a very different meaning than a Prius or a pickup truck. We can tell they're a type. And most folks can tell you the parts of town you might want to avoid, even though we don't hear the word slums much anymore. We get the point. We would have a hard time trying to make meaning out of that image of a garbage truck driver wearing a bikini. We'd likely run the image through our thoughts for quite some time, perhaps like you're doing right this very moment, right? We seem to need to make meaning out of what we see, make meaning out of what we experience. We seem to need to make things make sense. When we can extrude the meaning out of something, we can rest into understanding. We can rest into the comfort of knowing. Outside, there were snow flurries falling. Not real snow, I don't think. It was just small snowflakes falling. It caught my attention, not so much because snow was not predicted, but because I didn't see any clouds in the sky. So I was standing next to a 2, 3, 4-story building, so I moved around so I can get a better picture, a better view of the sky. The only clouds I could see were far away. And I just couldn't get my head around, how is it possible for it to be snowing here? And those clouds are so very, very far away. I found myself wondering, was it possible for the snowflakes to be coming from way over there? Maybe they were being blown by the wind. I was on schedule, perhaps fortunately, so I didn't take any more time to kind of really wrestle with this dilemma that I was having. But the mere possibility of an answer was enough to allow me to get back to the task at hand. But I did need to make meaning out of that experience, snow falling without me seeing clouds anywhere nearby. I needed it to make sense. I wanted to understand. So how often do we make things up in order to satisfy our need for things to make sense? To satisfy our need for understanding? Certainly, there are times when it's important for things to make sense. When I take my car to the mechanic and ask to have an oil change and they do work in the trunk of my car, there's a need for making meaning there. There's a need to resolve some misunderstanding or misexpectations. But when I make up an explanation for snow falling, do I really need to be invested in it making sense that I didn't see clouds in the sky? Things that are said, things we see, events we experience, all end up going through this process of meaning making. And we all too often believe what we think. We believe what we believe. And we treat our beliefs as truth. All too often, what we believe is just a belief. Something we've made up in order to have our experiences make sense. This dynamic is shockingly prevalent in society today, in our society, certainly. So many people believe what they believe. When that happens, beliefs get transformed into fact. And fact becomes truth. And those truths drive or support our behavior. So many of us are trying to make sense out of the words we hear, out of what we see, out of what we are feeling. The sad part, even the dangerous part, is that our most intensive focus is typically on the words and deeds of those with whom we disagree. We're often overly focused on the them and what they think, what they say, what they do, how they make us feel. A focus on our interpretations, our self-made meanings and explanations are all too often sorely missing. All too often we get lost in meaning making. We're too often focused, almost exclusively sometimes, on the external, driven by the world around us. We can become consumed by snowflakes falling from an apparently scouty, cloudless sky. I want to return to the Upanishads. The word of the Upanishads date back some 800 years before Jesus Christ was born, and we started keeping time. It's not age alone that makes them important or wise, those Upanishads. It's the fact they're still considered sacred texts. Texts that lives are built around. Texts that have weathered the test of time. Texts that continue to hold deep meaning for millions of people. I offer you some wisdom from the Upanishads. As the sun, who is the eye of the world, cannot be tainted by the defects in our eyes, nor the objects it looks upon, so the one self, dwelling in all, cannot be tainted by the evils of the world, for this self transcends all. And another. You cannot see that which is the seer of seeing. You cannot hear that which is the hearer of hearing. You cannot think of that which is the thinker of thought. You cannot know that which is the knower of knowledge. This is yourself that is within all. Everything else but this is perishable. Now here's a quote I found that I think aligns quite nicely with our 7 principles, that interconnected web of all existence. In that unitive state, one sees without seeing, for there is nothing separate from self. Smells without smelling, but there is nothing separate from self. Tastes without tasting, for there is nothing separate from self. Speaks without speaking, for there is nothing separate from self. Touches without touching, for there's nothing separate from self. Thinks without thinking, for there is nothing separate from self. Knows without knowing, for there is nothing separate from self. Did you get the message, folks? Nothing separate from self. It's a message from close to 3,000 years ago. And there are another set of words. Then the well spoke to me. It said, abundance is scooped from abundance, yet abundance remains. As a spring, self-generating, feeding all of itself to the rivers and yet not used up by them, ever at rest. A man by the name of Gandhi said, materialism reinforces a paradigm of scarcity. There's not enough to go around, so we're doomed to fight one another over diminishing resources. Spiritual economics began not from the assumed scarcity of matter, but from the verifiable infinitude of consciousness. There is enough in the world for everyone's needs. There is not enough for everyone's greed. Back to the Upanishads. There is no joy in the finite. There is joy only in the infinite I. I hold up these quotes, these translations, because I know for myself these truths are hard to find during times as such we live. And I have been in need. These are times that are especially problematic. These are times that are scary for many. There's a war in Europe, yet again. Something none of us would have expected just months ago. A war that is a manifestation of an effort to exert power over. A shattering of expected norms, a shattering of lives, a shattering of hopes. Closer to home, we live in times of extreme partisanship. There seem to be no facts, no common understanding we could agree on. So how do we even have a conversation? Many fear losing our sense of who we are as a nation. Oh, and so many folks believe we already have. We harbor feelings of doom and destruction. Many fear for the rights of women, the rights of Black people, and the rights of those who are termed other. Many fear the imposition of a particular type of Christian orthodoxy, a particular political perspective. Some fear the shadow of authoritarian rule. Some seek to be in control, to be in charge, to set the rules. You know what I mean. We can get caught up in the tweet of the day. We await the next news cycle carrying proof to feed our beliefs, to feed our fears, to feed our interpretations. Many feel an obligation to resist, to push back, to take a stand. I share many of these beliefs, many of these fears. I too feel the need to resist. I too am eager to see what's in the news. And I too feel pulled into a whirlwind of drama. And partially, in large measure, that drama is the genesis of my sermon this morning. There are times I get lost in it, trying to make meaning out of what I see and what I experience. I get pulled into fear. I get pulled into sadness and anxiety. But when I'm able to hear, my spirit tells me there is no joy in such a whirlwind. There's little optimism in my meaning making. I'm come to recognize that whatever it is that's going on out there, it's been in process for some time. Whatever our preferred outcome, it lies in the future and will take time to unfold. I think that's why they put the word patience in our language. So I want to gird myself for the long haul. I want not to get lost in the everyday fervor of the news. I want not to get lost in the rightness of the meaning I ascribe to events. I want not to lose sight of love and the interconnectedness of all existence, despite differences. So now and again, I turn to the Upanishads. I hold up our Unitarian Universalist principles and values. I hold up a belief that joy is ever present. I do spirit development work. Sometimes a massage helps. I remind you by way of reminding myself to be intentional as we live this life we've been given. Be willing to fight for what you believe in. Know there is need to be proactive in reaching our chosen destination. But also know we need to take care of ourselves and we need to take care of each other. I want us to remember the need to go inward to find our deepest sense of self, that place where, as they say in the Upanishads, abundance is scooped from abundance, yet abundance remains. This reminder is a gift we ought to give to ourselves, a gift we can give to one another. It's a principle we can keep alive in our community, keep alive in this community. For it's how we can feed and care for one another and ourselves. Let us agree to nurture one another, knowing, as they say in the Upanishads, the one true self dwelling in all cannot be tainted by the evils of the world. For this self transcends all. May it be so. Amen. And Ashe.
I'm ready. Hello, I'm Terry Smith, representing the Caring Committee. Among our responsibilities to the church is to chronicle the joys and concerns of the members of this community. If you would like to share something personal from your heart, you can contact any member of the Caring Committee. Sally Garber is our chair, or send a message to Samantha at the church office. We also have the Caring Journal, which normally is on the altar before and after service, and during the week is in the alcove next to the name tag board. This morning, I'd like to pass along for Beth Carruthers that her daughter and her grandchildren are still affected with COVID. We'll keep them in our hearts. Also, Michael Adams has asked us to report that Ray Wertzberger, a friend to many of us, is to have surgery on Tuesday this week. So be mindful of Ray. And Heather Mason is recovering at home after a successful surgery. Reverend Walter and I will now light candles for the silent joys and concerns that we hold in our hearts, as well as for all the thoughts of those listening in on YouTube.
Join me in a time of prayer, meditation, and reflection. Great Spirit of the universe, we pray today for the world in which we live, a world that has a history of good times, bad times, and times that are uncertain. It is good that we accept the truth of what is, that war is not a good thing, not a good thing even for those outside the combat zone. For what affects one affects our interconnectedness. Great Spirit of life, Spirit of love, it's important that we not collapse into what's out there in the world. Perhaps especially during times like these, it's important that we be clear-eyed. Clear-eyed that what affects one affects us all. Hold on to what is good, what is of value. Hold on to love. Stay connected with your heart. For what affects one affects us all in our interconnectedness. Good people seek joy, seek joy, seek the light, knowing that what affects one affects us all. Stay connected to love. Know that love is the elixir of life. Know that we each have a role to play in the unfolding of this universe. May your love, your joy be contagious and spread beyond the reach that you can imagine. May we be ever connected and aware of the interconnectedness of it all and us all. Amen. Ashe.
And now it's time for our announcements. Remember that the best source for you to find announcements of what's going on here at UUCR is in the newsletter on Thursdays. So I'm going to kind of give you a condensed version of some of those. First and probably most important is that our generosity campaign is kicking off pretty soon. In fact, tomorrow. There's our first Zoom meeting at 7 p.m. You should have received information on the Zoom link in the newsletter. And then there was a supplemental one that came after that. If you have questions, where's Matt? Matt Livingston is your answerer person. RE will start again on March the 20th. See Jesse for specifics. And the kickoff will be March 13th at a multi-generational meeting here in the church based on the book A Home for Tandy. Carrie wants you to know that choir practice has started again. Wednesday nights, 7:30 to 8:30. There are K95 singing masks available. Bonnie, are you in charge of Pack-A-Snack? That's what I thought. Yeah, Pack-A-Snack has a great need right now. We help support 4 elementary schools here in our church neighborhood. They need peanut butter, cheese crackers, granola bars, and bags with handles to carry the peanut butter in. We have several groups that meet here at the church. On Tuesdays from noon to 1, there is a men's group that meets. And then on the first and third Thursday of each month, the women's group meets in the Olin Room from 12:30 to 2:30. Our family movie night is starting up again, March 11th from 6 to 8:30. That was in the announcements. No, Jesse? Okay, scratch that one. All right. We have a rally on the 20th of March, Clean Energy Rally. So see Bob, Climate and Clean Energy Rally, sponsored by Bob Egbert and the Green Team. That'll be from 12:15 to 1:15. Remember that all services are on YouTube, including those from the recent memorial services we've had here at the church. And if you are still interested in listening circles, you can contact Lynn Yates.
The closing music is I've Got Peace Like a River. And actually, well, I'll say it from here. Jesse's coming up because we're going to do this with some hand motions. So if you are on the gold door side of the room, meaning from like Allison and Lydia over, you are either group 1 or 2, but you're in a group. I'm not sure which number, it'll depend. You're in group 2. And if you're anybody on the other side, like from Judy and Erica and on over here, you get to be group 1. And group 2 has just different hand motions than group 1, and they don't happen at the same time. So it will be very easy for you to follow.
For you.
And Jessie is going to be both groups 1 and 2. So Jessie, just to review, because this is how we do it in choir practice, which side is group 1?
Group 1.
Which side is group 2?
Group 2.
Okay, here we go. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got love like a fountain, I've got love like a fountain, I've got love like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like a fountain, I've got love like a fountain, I've got love like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like an ocean, I've got joy like an ocean, I've got joy like an ocean in my ocean in my soul. That's going so well that we're just going to make it a little more complicated for this last verse. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river found ocean. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river found ocean. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river found ocean in my soul. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river found ocean. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river found ocean. I've got peace, love, and joy like a river found ocean in my soul.
That was cute, but I don't like that. I can't keep up. Know that life is designed for living, not knowing. Know that living requires breathing. It includes love because we're fortunate to have the ability to love. Go into your week in peace.
Okay. Too bad that.